In over 35 years of hosting Jeopardy, Alex Trebek thought he had seen every possible moment of human drama unfold behind his podium. The brilliant answers, the crushing defeats, the unlikely comebacks, the tears of joy and disappointment. But nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared him for what happened that quiet Thursday afternoon in November, when a simple question about military history would stop production entirely and leave America's most composed game show host struggling to maintain his legendary calm. This wasn't just another episode. This was the moment when television became a bridge between worlds, when a host became a messenger of hope, and when silence became impossible to maintain. It was November 14, 2019, at the Jeopardy studios in Culver City, California. The familiar blue set gleamed under the studio lights, and Alex Trebek stood behind his podium with the same dignified presence he'd maintained for decades. At 79, he still carried himself with the quiet authority that had made him America's most trusted quiz show host. The three contestants that day seemed like a typical mix. In the champion's position stood Dr. Sarah Mitchell, a 34-year-old military historian from Virginia who'd won 3 games in a row. Her expertise in American military conflicts had served her well in previous episodes. To her left was Robert Chen, a 28-year-old software engineer from Seattle, nervous but determined in his first appearance. And on the far left stood Captain Patricia Williams, a 42-year-old Army nurse currently on leave, wearing her uniform as permitted for active military personnel. What the studio audience didn't know, what even the production crew hadn't been told, was that Captain Williams had received devastating news just 3 hours before taping began. Her husband, Master Sergeant James Williams, had been critically injured in an IED explosion while serving in Afghanistan. The military notification officers had found her at the studio, delivering the news that would shatter her world just as she was about to fulfill a lifelong dream of appearing on her favorite game show. Patricia had been given the choice to withdraw from taping, but she'd insisted on continuing. "James would want me to compete," she'd told the officers, her voice steady despite her internal anguish. "He's been so excited about this for months. I can't just walk away." The producers were informed of the situation but agreed to proceed, having no idea they were about to witness television history in the making. Alex began the Jeopardy round with his characteristic warmth, engaging each contestant with personal questions during the interview segment. When he reached Patricia, her smile seemed forced, but her professionalism was evident. "Patricia, you're an Army nurse currently stationed at Fort Campbell. Tell us about your military service." Patricia's voice was steady, but Alex's experienced eye caught the tension in her shoulders. "I've been serving for 18 years, Alex. Currently deployed as part of a medical support unit, but I'm on rotation leave. My husband is actually still overseas, serving with his unit in Afghanistan. That must be challenging, maintaining a marriage with both partners in active service," Alex observed gently. "It is, but we make it work. We've been married 15 years, and we both knew military life when we set our vows. You support each other through everything." Patricia's voice caught slightly on the last word, and Alex noted it with concern. The game proceeded normally through the Jeopardy round. Patricia was performing well, her military knowledge serving her particularly effectively in a category about World War II battles. But Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something was troubling her. Between commercial breaks, he approached her station. "Are you feeling all right, Patricia? You seem a bit distracted." Patricia forced another smile. "Just nervous, Alex. It's not every day you get to meet a legend." Alex Trebek studied her face with the intuition that had served him well for decades. There was pain behind her eyes, the kind that came from carrying a burden too heavy for one person. "Well, you're doing beautifully. Your husband must be very proud, watching from overseas." Patricia's composure almost cracked. "He would be, Alex. He really would be." But just as they moved into Double Jeopardy, something unprecedented happened. The show's executive producer, Mike Richards, walked onto the set during active taping, something that had never occurred in Alex's memory. Mike was carrying a phone, and his expression was urgent but carefully controlled. "Alex," Mike said quietly, approaching the podium, "I need you to take this call, right now." Alex looked puzzled, his legendary composure momentarily shaken. "Mike, we're in the middle of taping. Can't this wait until after the show?" "No, Alex. It absolutely cannot wait." Mike's tone was firm but respectful. "Trust me on this, please." Alex took the phone, confusion evident on his face. The studio fell silent as America's most professional host found himself in an unprecedented situation. Hello, this is Alex Trebek. The voice on the other end was crisp, official. Mr. Trebek, this is Colonel Sarah Martinez calling from Walter Reed National Military Medical Center. I understand you have Captain Patricia Williams on your show today. Alex's eyes immediately went to Patricia, who had gone rigid with terror. Yes, Colonel, she's one of our contestants. Mr. Trebek, I'm calling about Master Sergeant James Williams. There's been an incident. Patricia's hand flew to her mouth, a small cry escaping despite her military training. Alex saw her reaction, and his own expression grew grave. What kind of incident, Colonel? Alex asked, his voice careful and controlled. Master Sergeant Williams was critically injured in an explosive attack 3 days ago. He's been in surgery for the past 72 hours. The studio was absolutely silent now. Mr. Trebek, I need you to know that the sergeant is alive. He's stable, but he's been asking for his wife constantly since he regained consciousness this morning. Alex felt relief wash over him. He's alive. Thank God. Yes, sir. Trebek, the reason I'm calling during your show is that we have a situation here at Walter Reed. Master Sergeant Williams doesn't know that his wife is appearing on Jeopardy today. He's been talking about how proud he is that she made it onto the show, how he's been bragging to his unit about his wife meeting Alex Trebek. Alex glanced at Patricia, who was now being supported by the other contestants. Colonel, what can we do? Well, sir, that's why I'm calling. Master Sergeant Williams has been stabilized enough that we can arrange a video call. His doctors think that seeing his wife, knowing she's safe and pursuing her dreams, might be exactly what he needs for his recovery. Would it be possible to arrange something? Alex didn't hesitate. Absolutely, whatever you need. But what happened next left everyone breathless. What nobody knew was that this call hadn't come from Walter Reed at all. It had come from backstage at the Jeopardy studio, where Master Sergeant James Williams had been waiting in a wheelchair, flown in secretly by the military as a surprise for his wife. The explosion had been real, his injuries were real, but he'd been medically cleared for transport specifically for this moment. Colonel Martinez continued her deception, which was actually part of an elaborate surprise coordinated by the military and the show's producers. Mr. Trebek, before we connect the video call, I should mention that the sergeant has a message for his wife. He wanted me to tell her that no matter what happens, she should answer that final Jeopardy question. He said she'll know what he means. Alex looked at Patricia with newfound understanding. Patricia, did you and James have a conversation about Final Jeopardy? Through her tears, Patricia nodded. The night before I left for Los Angeles, we were watching old episodes. There was a Final Jeopardy about the Battle of Normandy, and I got it wrong. James said that if I ever got a military history question in Final Jeopardy, I should trust my instincts because I know more than I think I do. Well, Alex said with a gentle smile, it sounds like your husband has confidence in you even from a hospital bed. Shall we arrange that video call? Patricia nodded eagerly, but what happened next left everyone stunned. Instead of a video screen being wheeled out, the studio doors opened, and Master Sergeant James Williams was wheeled onto the set by 2 military personnel. His left leg was in a cast, his arm was in a sling, and there were visible bandages on his face, but he was smiling. Patricia screamed and ran to him, nearly knocking over his wheelchair in her desperation to embrace him. The studio erupted in applause as the truth of the surprise became clear. How? Patricia sobbed into his shoulder. How are you here? They said you were at Walter Reed. James held her with his good arm. I was at Walter Reed, baby, for 3 days. But when the doctors cleared me for travel and the military heard you were going to be on Jeopardy, they moved heaven and earth to get me here. I couldn't miss watching my brilliant wife compete on our favorite show. Alex Trebek stood watching this reunion with tears in his eyes. In all his years of hosting, he'd never witnessed anything like this. James, how badly were you injured? James's expression grew serious. IED explosion took out our convoy. I was lucky, Alex. Broken leg, dislocated shoulder, some shrapnel cuts, but I'm alive. 3 of my men didn't make it home. His voice broke. But I did, and I get to see my wife compete on Jeopardy, and you're cleared to travel, Alex asked, his concern evident. Medical transport, full clearance. The Army wanted to do something special for Patricia. She's been serving for 18 years, and this appearance meant so much to her. When they found out I was stable enough to travel, they made it happen. Patricia was still clinging to her husband. I thought I'd lost you. When those officers came to the studio, I thought my world had ended. Never. James said firmly. I promised you 15 years ago that I'd always come home to you, and I keep my promises." Alex approached the couple, his legendary composure touched with deep emotion. "This is extraordinary. In 35 years of hosting this show, I've never seen anything like this." James looked up at Alex with obvious admiration. "Mr. Trebek, Patricia has watched Jeopardy every single night for the past 15 years. Even when we're deployed in different locations, we try to sync up and watch together via video chat. You've been part of our marriage in a way." Alex was visibly moved. "That's one of the most meaningful things anyone has ever said to me." But the surprises weren't over. James reached into his jacket with his good arm and pulled out an envelope. "Alex, Patricia doesn't know this, but I've been carrying this letter for 6 months, waiting for the right moment." Patricia looked confused. "What letter?" James opened the envelope with trembling hands. "It's from our commanding officer. Patricia, you've been selected for promotion to major. They wanted to tell you personally, but given everything that's happened, they asked me to share the news." Patricia's eyes widened in disbelief. "A promotion? Now? You earned it months ago," James said proudly. "Your leadership during that medical crisis at the base clinic saved lives. The promotion ceremony will happen when we're both back home, but I wanted you to know today." When the ceremony concluded, Alex turned to address the cameras. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to do something that's never been done in the history of Jeopardy. We're going to pause our regular competition to honor this family's service and sacrifice." He turned to the other contestants. "Robert, Sarah, are you comfortable with us taking some time for this?" Both contestants nodded enthusiastically. Sarah, the military historian, was crying. "This is more important than any game, Alex." Alex made a decision that would become memorable in television history. "You know what? Let's do something special. James, would you like to help Patricia with her remaining answers today?" James grinned despite his injuries. "Are you serious, Alex? I think under these circumstances we can bend a few rules. You can consult with each other on the remaining clues." What happened next was touching. James quietly encouraged Patricia through the rest of Double Jeopardy, and their teamwork was evident to everyone watching. Alex announced that the show would make a donation to support military families. "There's one more thing. Patricia, you still have your original game to complete. But given everything that's happened, I think we need to address something." He paused, looking directly at her. "Do you want to continue competing today, or would you prefer to focus on your husband's recovery?" Patricia looked at James, who squeezed her hand with his good arm. "Patricia," he said softly, "we trained for this moment for months. I didn't fly 8,000 miles in a medical transport to watch you quit. I flew here to watch you win." Patricia smiled through her tears. "Then let's finish what we started." The remainder of the game was emotional and inspiring. Patricia competed with a confidence and joy that hadn't been there earlier, buoyed by her husband's presence and the knowledge that he was safe. She dominated the Double Jeopardy round and entered Final Jeopardy with a substantial lead. The Final Jeopardy category was American military history. The clue read, "This World War II operation, launched June 6, 1944, was the largest seaborne invasion in history." Patricia wrote confidently, then looked at her husband, who nodded encouragingly. When Alex revealed her response, "What is Operation Overlord? D-Day?" and she'd wagered everything, the studio erupted. "That's correct. Patricia, you've won $48,600. James struggled to stand from his wheelchair, and Patricia helped support him as they embraced. "That's my brilliant wife," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. Alex Trebek approached them one final time. "In all my years hosting this show, I've learned that Jeopardy is really about more than questions and answers. It's about knowledge, courage, and the human spirit. Today you both showed us what those things really mean." The episode that aired 6 weeks later became the most watched Jeopardy episode in the show's history. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Donations to the Wounded Warrior Project spiked by 400%. Other military families shared their stories. The clip of the reunion went viral, reaching over 50 million views. But perhaps the most meaningful response came from Alex Trebek himself. In an interview a month later, he said, "That day reminded me why I fell in love with this job 35 years ago. It's not about the game, it's about the moments when ordinary people show extraordinary grace under pressure." But there was something Alex Trebek never told anyone about that day. Patricia and James Williams returned to active duty, both recovering well from their traumas. They continued watching Jeopardy together, now with their own episode to remember whenever they needed proof that love, commitment, and courage could overcome any obstacle. Alex kept a photo from that day on his desk until his final episode. It showed Patricia and James embracing after her final Jeopardy victory, both in uniform, both smiling despite everything they'd endured. Below it he'd written, "The answer that mattered most wasn't on the board, it was in their hearts." The day Alex Trebek took an unexpected phone call during taping didn't just reunite one military family. It reminded America that behind every uniform is a human story, that service requires sacrifice from entire families, and that sometimes the most important victories happen not in war zones or hospitals, but on game show stages where love proves stronger than fear. Years later, when people asked Alex Trebek about his most memorable moment hosting Jeopardy, he always mentioned Patricia and James Williams. "They taught me," he'd say, "that the real questions worth answering aren't about facts in books, they're about what you do when everything you love is on the line. The answer, always, is that you never give up on each other." That phone call stopped Jeopardy for 20 minutes, but the love it revealed has lasted forever. What would you have done in Alex Trebek's position? Would you have stopped everything to help reunite this military family, or followed protocol? Share your thoughts below. If this touched your heart, hit like and subscribe for more stories.